We see a rich man getting off a plane and he has plenty of bodyguards. He's going to his house and even on the way he is escorted. He arrives and goes to the pool and all of a sudden an assassin comes out and drowns him. Before the guards find out, the assassin changes his outfit and leaves on a boat. Here we meet our main characters. Harry is Arthur Bishop's boss and gives him contracts, and Arthur never asks any questions and just does the job. Arthur gets his money and goes to a bar, drinks alcohol, picks up a girl, sleeps with her, and then he leaves. Wow, good for you, Arthur. The next day, when he checks his missions, he sees that his next mission is to kill Harry. He calls to his employer and talks to Dean, the head of the organization, and he tells Arthur that 5 of his guys were murdered in a mission and only him and Harry knew about this. That night, Arthur struggles to how to play this and he decides to call Harry and tells him that Dean wants him dead. Arthur then helps Harry to escape without getting caught on camera, and when Harry gets to the parking, Arthur is waiting for him. Harry understands what's happening and gives Arthur his gun and tells him to do what he thinks is right. Then Arthur kills him with no hesitations. In Harry's funeral, Arthur sees Steve, Harry's son. They talk for a bit and Arthur finds out that all the money that Harry left for his son will be taken from him by the bank or by the organization. At night, we see Steve drunk. He is fighting with a thief and wants to kill him. Maybe he is the killer of his dad. Arthur Bishop comes out of nowhere and takes Steve away, and on the way, Steve apologizes to Bishop for having to save him. The next day, Steve asks Bishop to help him become a killer, and at first, Bishop refuses, but Steve is too persistent, and at the end, Arthur accepts. They go to a pet shop and Arthur asks Steve to do what he says, step by step. There, Steve gets a bit smug and tells Arthur that he knows what he is doing and also tells Arthur that he doesn't know anything about him. In a cool move, Arthur tells everything about him. Where he went to school, his fights, his degrees, why his mother died, and his struggle with drugs. At the pet shop, they buy a dog and Arthur tells Steve that he has to take the dog out every single day at 9 AM and go to a coffee shop for a month. In these 30 days, they do different trainings like shooting and driving. Finally, the day of the first mission arrives and they go to a gun dealer's house, and there Arthur chokes him out in cold blood and Steve is there learning. Then Arthur tells Steve that the most important thing is to make the scene as if it was not a murder. They return and Bishop hands Steve his first mission, a big Mexican guy. Bishop tells Steve that this man has 2 weaknesses, dogs and young boys. Also, he has been going to the coffee shop that Steve went for a month, so sooner or later he will make a move. And there, Steve should finish him off. I mean, kill him, not the other meaning. Arthur gives Steve some drugs for him to put in the fat man's drink, but Steve wants to prove himself to Arthur, so instead of poisoning the drink, he goes to the man's house. He wants to choke him with a belt, but the man is too strong for him, and he gets beat up really bad, and at the end, Steve is lucky enough to find a screwdriver and kills the fat man with it. Days go by and Steve and Arthur do other and big missions together, and Dean is happy with this new duo, so he gives them a case to kill one of his biggest rivals. Their mission is to inject the man with a high dosage of adrenaline to kill him. They enter through the roof, they go into the vents, and when they inject the man, it doesn't affect him because he's a junkie and he just took drugs. They have to choke him, and when they're done, they want to escape through the vents. Someone comes in the room and sees the body and alert the guards, and at that moment, a screw falls from a vent and they find out that whoever did this is still there. One of the guards is searching the room, and when he opens the vent, Steve kills him. They come out of the vent and on their way they kill a few other men and they run. In the airport, Bishop sees an old friend of his, Sebastian. And Sebastian was supposed to be dead because he was amongst those 5 assassins that Harry tipped off and gave away. Arthur then finds out that it was Dean's plan all along to have Harry eliminated and he didn't do anything wrong. So this fact makes him go for Dean. Dean knew about this before and already sent a few men to kill Arthur, but Arthur kills them all. Arthur and Steve go to find Dean, and there Steve finds his father's gun, missing a few bullets, at Arthur's house, but doesn't say anything, and they leave. In order to find Dean, they go to pay a visit to one of his close friends, and they threaten him that if he doesn't cooperate and tell them where Dean is, they will put her daughter's hand in a blender. He doesn't talk and cooperate, so Arthur does what he said. He does put the girl's hand in a blender. The man starts talking and gives the address. Dean calls Arthur and says that he will put a huge bounty on his head, and before Arthur reaches him, he is killed. Arthur says, "I already have you." Dean looks at the phone, and by looking at the number, he realizes that it's from upstairs. He makes a run for it, but Arthur and Steve are prepared. They kill all the guards one by one, and at the end, Arthur flips Dean's car over with a bulldozer. They kill Dean and they are off. On the road, Steve constantly talks about his father and wanting to revenge his death, and asks Arthur if he has anything to say, but Arthur is silent. They stop to fill the gas and Steve leaves it open to run, and the gas is leaking. He goes to the store and shoots the car and blows it up. Then Steve goes to Arthur's house to take his red car, and inside the car he finds a letter that Bishop left. The letter says, "When you read this, you are dead." Steve laughs and it starts the car, and then boom! The car blows up and Steve dies. The next day, a policeman is looking at cameras of the gas station and sees a man leaves the place before the explosion. One certain cool bald man called Arthur Bishop. Hope you enjoyed this recap of the movie Mechanic. Don't forget to subscribe for more recaps and leave a like if you liked this one. That's it. Thanks. Bye.